As he stands on the bank of the Nashwauk River, Peter Clark sees a flood of New Brunswick stories moving downstream from the past. Peter has spent a good part of his life with his feet planted in salmon water like the Nashwauk. In his time, Peter has done a lot of things for a living, everything from teaching to selling cars. But these days, he's become a storyteller, and perhaps as importantly, a story saver.
Like back in the old days, what we used to do on Sunday afternoon, we used to go over to maybe Uncle Bill's or to my grandmother's, and everybody told stories, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And so I guess that stuck with me, you know, and when you talk to older people, they always had lots of stories to tell. So I started interviewing some of the guides and fishermen that I knew on the river and just continued on with it. And I've got quite a stack of tape conversations there. Anybody that I think is quite interesting, and if I have a chance, and you know, I'll take my tape recorder over and see them.
We always get the bums, as they call them, or tramps. We didn't call them bums, we call them tramps. So anyway,
much of the material he's gleaned from those interviews and encounters has found its way into a series of books that Peter has produced. They chronicle the way things used to be in New Brunswick, and in many cases, the stories are the personal accounts of the people who lived them.
And he had some toast, and he had lots to eat, and he had 20 cups of tea, no coffee them days, and he enjoyed it. But then he said he felt bad. He said, asking for a bite to eat. He said, I can't help it. He said, I got no money, and I got no future, no job.
Well, we always fed the tramps, as we called them. He didn't look like a tramp. He was a clean-cut, nice-looking boy. He offered earnest breakfast. I'll split wood for you. I said, you don't have to split no wood for your breakfast.
That particular story was from a gentleman named Bill White from Tamath, but some of the stories in Peter's books are those he has found and written himself. Others are well-known New Brunswick legends and folk tales, but all of them shine a small light on life in New Brunswick. But as much as the books tell us about New Brunswick, they show us as much and serve as a showcase for New Brunswick artists. Clark has chosen New Brunswickers to illustrate his work, some of them well known, like Molly and Bruno Bobak, others not as well known yet.
I try to get some of the top artists in New Brunswick and some even in Canada, that, like Mary Pratt, for instance, who lived in Newfoundland. She did 2 of the drawings for me in Treasury of New Brunswick Art and Stories. And Bruno Bobak has been my biggest contributor, and he's internationally known. But I've just went around and asked a number of artists, and I've been very lucky, like 19 in one book and 15 in my newest one, A Treasury of New Brunswick Art and Stories 2. Very few artists have turned me down.
Many of the early stories are about New Brunswick's woods and waters, reflecting Peter's interest in salmon fishing. But in the later books, he's broadened his view to take in both town and country. In these, you can read everything from the legend of Malabeam to an account of Babe Ruth's visit to the Neal Sporting Goods store in Fredericton. Clark fits comfortably into the fabric of the stories he collects. An ardent fly fisherman, his first stories were from the streams and fishing camps of central New Brunswick. He's a tyer, too, and he's invented a few flies of his own, which he's turned into presentation pins. He's created the Solicitor General for Andy Scott, invented the Fiddlehead, the MP, the Millennium, and the Canada fly, which he's tying here. This fly has been officially presented to a number of leaders, including the G7, U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno, the Prime Minister, and all of the Canadian premiers. But the handwork is taking second place to a growing passion to preserve, to hold on to the bits and pieces of New Brunswick's spoken tradition, to fix them firmly while they live, so that we, all of us, don't lose something of ourselves.
I don't know if it's my destiny or whatever, but I kind of like to preserve the culture and heritage of New Brunswick. And if I find a fascinating person or something that I think is kind of unique, then I'll try to get it into one of my books. I do have people that will tell me, you know, you should interview this person before they die, or that person before they die. So, I mean, I get that all the time now.
I'm Neil Stairs for CBC News in the Nashwauk Valley.